Thank you for being here. Welcome to The Whole Elephant. If this is your first time joining me on a podcast, thanks for being here. My name is Eric McClenahan, and The Whole Elephant. This is my podcast based on the poem The Blind Man and the Elephant, where six blind men are asked to describe an elephant, and they all describe it basically just from the first thing that they touch. And so this is my journey of trying to see other perspectives in life, not just what I grew up with, not just what I'm involved with now, but seeing how people live their jobs, their careers, how they got to be where they are, how they function, how they're successful, all those things. And then also, how do they live on a moral, spiritual, God, no God? How are they getting through this crazy life? My guest today is Andy Karl, the one and only Andy Karl. If you're a fan of Broadway, he needs no introduction. He's originated incredible roles like Rocky Balboa in Rocky the Musical, Edward Lewis in Pretty Woman the Musical, and of course my favorite, Phil Connors in Groundhog Day the Musical, as well as a ton of others. He's been in Wicked, Jersey Boys, Into the Woods, so many Broadway credits. It's incredible. Or you might know him from his run on Law and Order SVU. I got the privilege to meet Andy at a party in New York a couple weeks ago. And I say privilege not in the sense of like I got the privilege to meet a celebrity. How cool. Obviously, I really wanted to meet him, and I was excited to do that because of his talent and, you know, what he's accomplished and all that. But I say privilege because he just turned out to be the most kind, generous human, and to connect on a human level that night at the party was so amazing. And then the fact that he agreed to come on and do this little podcast with me was so kind, and I'm thrilled that he did it. I loved doing this podcast with him, and I hope you enjoy listening to it. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the chat. Andy, how's it going, man?
I'm good.
You were
Beautiful
in
day
your
in New York
kitchen in
City.
New York today? Is that
Yeah,
what
that's
we're
right.
looking at?
That's right. I'm staring out at a beautiful day, but I'm in here cozy and ready to eat anything out of a refrigerator behind me.
Nice.
So I'm
Is it a
winning.
beautiful day?
It is a beautiful day. It is September 13th. It's Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Spooky.
That's out of context for anybody that's listening to this now. It's Friday the 13th of September, and it is I'm actually going to go see Beetlejuice tonight.
Oh, yes. I have to see that this weekend as well. So excited. Yeah, LA has been insanely hot, and it like dipped to like 75 today. So I have a hoodie on because it's freezing in LA now. It's
Exactly.
75.
That's the freezing temperature for anybody in Los Angeles. For New York,
Yeah.
got to be it's got to be below 20 degrees before we throw on the extra coat, because nobody likes to go into some building where they have to take off a million pieces of clothes here. So it's like it's got to be real cold to bring out the winter coats.
Yeah, yeah. But you just got back from vacation, I saw.
Yeah, I was in Greece and having a great time with a big group of people, including Elise McCann, who's was in Groundhog Day with me, as you know, who
Yeah.
you've met. And she actually had a reunion with her cast of Mamma Mia from 15 years ago. They said to each other way back in the day, if we are all friends, uh, 15 years later, we all have to go to Greece for this vacation. And they all were. They were all very good friends and very good people. And
Nice.
I really said to her, hey, can I come along? She's like, sure, let's do it. And it was beautiful. So yeah, I've been world traveling for a while. Greece,
Nice.
Australia, New York City. I think that's it thus far, but that's enough.
You're a guy that works a lot. You're actively working all the time. Are you good at rest? Are you good at getting away? Or are you sitting there anxious to get back and get working?
No, I'm real good at it. As I get older, I'm like, I could. I could stay here for a couple of months and be fine. But you always, it's always ticking away the bank accounts in the back of the head, or like, what other shows out there? What am I missing? What am I not doing? What can I challenge myself with?
Sure.
And usually, after about a week or two of sitting around, as I'm sure we all found out during COVID, it's like, I got to have something to do. I need some purpose in my life. So I usually, if I'm not working, I'll be writing on something. As a matter of fact, that's one of the things I started doing with a friend of mine. We started writing a lot. And we wrote this film, the short film called Just the Hits that's on YouTube. And it's hilarious about two guys who are singers, but they also murder for hire is their 9 to 5 job. So it's a fantasy, obviously. I don't know, kill people. I sing, but in any case, we're working on the feature length film of that.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so we just got some funding, and we're back and forth with all sorts of people like music supervisors and producers, and God, it takes a lot to put a movie together, and we're
It's a
trying to do
lot.
it in a very short amount of time.
Yeah. You also have another musical coming up. I want to start with the present and then work our way back to your history.
Okay.
But coming up, you have Teeth, the musical.
Teeth, the
Uh,
musical.
which,
I,
if anyone has seen of or heard of the 2007 cult classic movie Teeth, uh, how is this a musical? Is the
exactly,
first
exactly my
question.
thoughts. I usually think that about all musicals. Like, how are you going to make Rocky into a musical? How are you going to do Groundhog Day into a
Sure.
musical? This one specifically has a sort of a certain amount of horror and I don't know, feminism more versus patriarchal, and yeah, it's a lot involved in the show, and it does have some bits of, I'm going to say gore, but it's theater, so we do it in a very theatrical way where
Right.
there might be a few people splashed in the front row. But to be
There's a
honest with
splash
you,
zone.
it's beautiful. It's beautiful from the script I've read. I didn't actually see the piece that they did at the Public Theater, but
Mhm.
before I came on, which is just a few months ago, and Steve Pascal, who was playing the part that I'm going to be playing, couldn't do this run, so I was happily able to jump in and try to be as good, if not better, than him. I'll try my best, but he's an amazing actor, and the parts that I'll be playing are ridiculous. I'm looking forward.
Did you go watch the movie? Is that part of the process for
Yes,
you?
watched the movie. I actually watched the movie on my way to Greece.
On
I
the
was,
plane?
yeah, I was sitting with Elise, and we were watching the movie together, and she got kind of disturbed by it. I was like, perfect, good. I can't wait to see the show.
I just
Um,
imagine the people like sitting next to you on the plane or back a couple rows, like looking looking forward, going, "What
yeah,
is that guy
luckily we just had
watching?"
it on my phone, so nobody else was engaging.
Oh, good, good,
Um,
good.
But from what good musical theater pieces do from movies is they take the source material and they sort of like rearrange it, they're adding music to it, so it's things speak for other parts of scenes where you don't need the scene to happen. Certain elements of characters need to come to more of a fruition in a theater setting, or they're trying to discover something more about the piece, the theme about the piece. So
Yeah.
it's like the movie in a way, but I think it is its own beast, which is very theatrical and funny and a little bit of horror, and yeah, I'm just really looking forward to people seeing this because it's exciting. It's a really exciting piece.
Yeah, I wanted to ask along the same lines. You've originated roles on Broadway that are not only like adaptations from movies, but like iconic characters from
Mm.
movies. I mean, Rocky Balboa is already iconic before the idea of a musical pops up. Phil Connors, in his own way, is already an iconic movie. Pretty Woman, that's an already iconic movie. How do you separate yourself, like what do you draw from the movies and how do you separate, how do you make it something new, how much do you take from it, what is the process there?
A lot of it is, I mean, I can't have not watched Rocky growing up, so I knew
Yeah.
the movie before I got into it. I'm not the type of person to say, no, I won't watch that if I'm doing the role. Um, because there are certain things you can draw from as far as looking in between the lines of some of these actors playing it. Sly Stallone does some brilliant work, and also the director does some brilliant work in the movie of the first movie, Rocky, where they capture the real heart of this character, and the way the music is added and how the elements of what you feel when you're watching Rocky, a sort of underdog story, and a guy who's got a lot of heart, but he's in situations that are not so pretty. He's like, he basically collects money for, this thug. And but he gets his shot at actually boxing, and he becomes something better than himself. So to watch the movie is for me is to like capture what the heart of the movie, what the heart of the show is doing. So from there, I take how I process that, but I also my big thing is just go right to the script and look at what they're saying and really genuinely believe and or act those feelings. I'm just turning off my mail here so we don't get more buzzes. But what I want to point out is just look at the text. It tells you everything there, and you can create your own idea of who the character is. And there's certain elements. I mean, especially because Bill Murray is just so funny in Groundhog Day and everything he does. I can't be him. I can't be Bill Murray. He's got his own style of sardonic,
Yeah.
humor that he follows. There are other actors like Ryan Reynolds and Jason Bateman and I don't know, Robert Downey Jr. They all have these elements that they probably have taken from Bill. There's a delivery that's there, and those. So I studied those actors, seeing how they handle things, and then I came up with my own way of being a sardonic jerk, to learn a lesson. But again, like I said, it really does come down to the book and what this character needs to do. Um, I had a great time. I mean, and some shows are written better than others, and Groundhog Day was definitely one of the best written shows I have ever been a part of. For the
Yeah.
script, for the music, Tim Minchin, and with the direction was fantastic. Rocky, just like there's so much heart in that character that you just need to absorb that. And the set and the direction was just beautiful. So you get lucky, and then you want to do a really good job and believe in it yourself and truly
Yeah.
believe what the hell you're saying and singing.
Well, I will tell you, I will admit you did such a good job of making him a jerk at the beginning of the musical in Groundhog Day that I was almost shocked at how nice you were when I met you as a human. Does that make sense?
My favorite. That's my
Yeah.
favorite comment. There, I had another interview. Somebody said there was in the beginning there was just no way I could believe that this guy is going to be redeemable with this character that was being played, and you did it, or the character did it and the show did it. And that's my favorite thing to hear is that, I think America struggles to have a villain that we think that can be redeemed as far
Yeah.
as theater goes. Like Australia and London, they love those types of characters. America they want the right character to fit the right box in a lot of ways. They need their hero and their villain, and
Yeah.
don't cross the streams. If I can use another Bill Murray reference. And I don't mean to generalize, but it seemed for like the general public to come in and see shows. We did get laughs in America, and people who get that sense of humor are people who understand a broader sense of humor. I think
Sure.
Australia and London use a sense of humor to cut people and to make sure they're not getting too big, and also to keep a sense of humor and make everybody on a level playing field. Um, so it was, I don't know. I felt like the laughs were a little bit more in London and in Australia.
Interesting.
Interesting, where I hear like London isn't the place that you're going to get laughs, but I think
Yeah.
this really uh, going for that type of humor, that sort of
Right.
dark
Right.
humor that the villain can be redeemable and also very funny and charming, and uh,
Yeah.
and it could also learn a lesson.
Yeah, that's interesting because I think there's been a growing trend of trying to make villains more sympathetic in art, but usually it involves like revealing some of their backstory, and giving you their childhood and, oh, this is why they're this way, like,
Yeah,
oh, Thanos isn't really bad. He just wants the universe to survive. He's just a green
agreed.
thumb. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's just like he's doing it the only way he can do it that he thinks is possible, uh, and something, and then leave it at that and let
Yeah.
the universe take care of itself.
Yeah, or like the newest animation of the Grinch shows that he was an orphan and this is why he doesn't like Christmas. And but you rarely get like a villain actually taking a redemption journey in the way Groundhog Day does.
Yeah,
And it
yeah.
just was brilliant. I loved it.
Yeah, I agree, and that's in the writing and that's in the storyline, and again, very very fortunate to be a part of it. But yeah, very fortunate to find those pieces of myself. I remember starting Groundhog Day and knowing that I'd say 99% just like I'm a nice guy, and I don't like a lot of conflict, and I like challenges, but I also was never cast as a that sort of quick sardonic cut people down, but do
Yeah.
it in a way that they can't even see, but the audience sees, and have that be funny. And I'd sort of never been cast in something like that, or
Yeah.
something that rolls like it does with that show. Um, and I had to do some soul searching into like what is what's the thing that makes me the angriest, or makes me the most grumpy every single day.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
it came down to a version of like I don't like doing matinees because I'm tired. And I just thought maybe like Punxsutawney is just one big matinee, and I really don't want to be here right now. And I'm pushing through as hard as I can to bring you the forecast, and just people, please just get out of the way.
Yeah.
And I'd also, at that point in my quote unquote career, um, I was like, I felt like, and this is weird to say, and this says more about me than anything, is I had felt like I had worked really hard, especially in Rocky and a couple other Broadway shows before that, done a lot of physical humor, a lot of comedy, a lot of, throwing some drama in there. I'd done Law and Order SVU, and I was like, I felt like I'm going back into theater, and I felt like I was owed something, right? Like
Mm.
I got like three Tony nominations, but not an award. I had gotten, you know, praises here, but it was like I watched everybody else sort of escalate beyond me at that point for where I was. Sometimes people get very lucky very quickly, and that's all I was seeing is how like,
Yeah.
why did that happen for me? Why didn't this happen for me? So I actually used that in the show to start Phil in that way, where he feels
Interesting.
like he's owed something, and he does. Phil Connors feels like he doesn't want to be in Punxsutawney. He feels like he needs to have a better job. He needs to be better. So I really dug into that part where I normally wouldn't,
Yeah.
uh, and it was interesting because it was like, oh, this is working. How smart am I? How 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 now I can use this as a reflection back on the entire Broadway community of like, guys,
Mm.
I'm sticking my middle finger up at you guys, and this is great. I'm owed exactly what I need, and you'll give it to me. And interesting, even though I was using that as a position in the show. As a
Right.
person, I don't normally float that way. I'm like, I work very hard, I do what I love, and I'm very privileged to be here. But I was digging into that for the role. And by the time we got to Broadway, and I was like cooking, I was cracking, I'm feeling good. And then right before opening, I had an injury to my knee. Just it was 2 days before opening, and I collapsed on the ground, and I'm like crying and weeping. I'm like, why now? When I had it, when I could show the middle finger to the community and say like, look how good I am, and these are extreme versions of this. I don't have this much of an ego, but I thought it was interesting to say my legs were taken out from underneath of me, and I didn't have my hat to hang on. How good I had been in the community, and had really made sure that I was seeing everybody around me as amazing participants in such a thing, and also being a part of something that's so special, I was a little bit more ego driven at the time. And I'm talking in sort of like probably above where I was actually thinking. I'm thinking
Sure.
this is how it rolled out.
Sure.
And I was taught a huge lesson at that point. I was taken out of a position of thought of saying, I can't be dependent totally on self. People were lifting me up, they're wrapping my legs. People are empathizing and sympathizing for me. They're cheering me when I go back on stage and I'm like limping, and they want to be a part of something bigger than anyone's self. It's a part of being in a church of a community of theater. And I got that big lesson, and I learned my lesson at that point. I'm like, I can't, I don't deserve any of this. I'm lucky as shit to have this. And I'm walking back out here with all this support. And I really sat with that for a long period of time and sort of stripped my ego away from things. Um, Finally getting to revive the show in London in 2023 was a blessing I can't even tell you, because I was able to go back into the show with nothing but an actor loving what the hell he does and the people that he works with and the show that I was lucky enough to get. And I get to do it a second time, and I was thrilled beyond belief. But I don't know what the point of that story was, but it was an interesting delve into who
Yeah.
I am, what I do for
Yeah.
what I do for a living, and how thankful and grateful I can be for it. And I've been very lucky.
Yeah. My wife and I, um, we fell in love with theater, but through Los Angeles because we're here. And, we flew to New York, and our first Broadway show was one of your knee brace shows. That's the first ever show we went to in New York. And it was unbelievable. Like I've told you this before, but the commitment to the role, the commitment to be out there, I mean, it was remarkable. And then I got to go to opening night in London last year, and it felt to me like you had grown in the role, that something was different in the role to me when I saw it in London. And I say that with the caveat that it was opening night. I was sitting next to Tim Minchin, which is like, who gets
Yeah.
to ever like sit next to the writer. And so, maybe I was taking it in differently. I will admit that I might have just been taking it differently, but it felt to me like it meant something different to you. And you've done it now on 3 continents. You've done so many shows of it. How have you changed through this role?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that was in that long explanation before, was like, taking your ego out of things, like, and that means basically like, don't push the joke. The joke isn't about you. It's
Yeah.
written very well.
Yeah.
Stop trying to push a joke. And, I was trying to ride that line before, but I realized how much I could sit back and watch this wonderful thing happen, and let people's performances really just land. And I don't need to like soak up all the space and the energy to prove myself. It was a matter
Mm.
of like, this show means something to people, and it means something to me. Um, and I will perform it to the best of my abilities. And through, the last time I performed it, which was 6 years before, I had, certain parts of my how I think change.
Mm.
Certainly gratefulness for what I do, but also, um, I had certain parts of life came around that I was wanting to change and grow from, and also, just like meditation, little things that you start taking in your life that you need as you get older. I find you need more, of a chance to pause and consider where you come from and who you are, and ask yourself these hard hitting questions. Groundhog Day did that in a lot of ways. The first time I read it, it made me ask all these questions about myself, about, well, what would I do if I was like trapped in this day over and over again? How would I change that? Who would I listen to? Would I go into, a severe depression, or would I try to make the most of each day and consider the beauty of those days? And that sounds a little like woo woo, but those are questions you need to take in, and also give your brain and your heart a pause to just exist and see how beautiful life is around you, to be,
Yeah.
wake up grateful, I suppose. And I mean, as an actor, and as many actors do, we all strive and we push and we try to like climb the ladder and try to get somewhere. And we're, taking everything's about the career, everything's about the show, everything's about making sure that we're doing the best. That is the most important thing, is making sure that we take care of the career. And those things start to take a different position in life. I'm not saying they're not as important. It's just a matter of like, you know what? I also have to live a life and I have to experience things. I
Yeah.
do have to go to Greece. I do have to go and and try something I've never tried before, which I've started doing every birthday for the past couple of years. Um, I just had my birthday last month, and I try to do something new on that day, so it means something significant. And it could
Mm.
be like playing around a golf, or which I've never done before. It was just those things come into consideration as you grow, and that all filtered into Groundhog Day 2024.
Yeah.
And certainly just I really, really wanted to stare out in the audience during Tim's song, "Seeing You."
Yeah.
It was all for them. The audience that was there were return people that came to see the show again, who wanted to experience that again, who people who were, older than themselves coming back to see it. "Seeing You" was just a moment, at least the first verse and chorus was like, that is all for everybody in this theater. That is all for, I am so happy to be here right now. Um, that is where I needed to grow
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. And it was beautiful. And I am so lucky that I got to do that show again, because you can grow and you can build it. Last thing I'll say about that is my Phil Connors will be very different than somebody else's Phil Connors, but I truly believe if you're going to discover that type of role, you got to dig in. You got to find out who it is, because it will make it special for yourself, but also people that are on stage. But I think for the audience as well, they really see somebody who's truly considering something in their lives.
Yeah. No, I mean, just the journey that you've been talking about uh, makes me believe that when you get to the end of that song, "Seeing You," and you sing the line, "I know now that I know nothing," that you
Yeah,
were able to sing it earnestly, that you were
yeah,
able to connect that with yourself. And that's a beautiful thing.
it was. Every night it's like I holding back a tear for me. Like I was just trying to get through the song at some points, because it is overwhelming sometimes when you consider all the stuff you have in your life, and to be upright, walking on two legs, and doing something so special. It can really, if you allow it to hit you where it can, it can be very
Yeah.
overwhelming, and beautiful at the same time.
Let's just quickly backtrack. I just want to know where this passion started for you. Were you a 4-year-old Andy Carl running around the house singing show tunes? When did you discover this part of yourself?
Oh, probably. I think it started. Yeah, I remember my mother telling me that I had to be sent home from I don't know if it's kindergarten or nursery school or something, because I would constantly put on a cape and pretend I was Superman and be jumping off of desks. And she's like, he's very rambunctious. So there was a little bit of like, I need to exist in some other world, in some pretend world. That comes naturally to me. I didn't get into theater until my junior year of high school. So we always had music around. My mother played organ for her church. We had an album of
Mm.
Jesus Christ Superstar and The Who's Tommy, and those were really cool. Like, story-based music, rock, you
Yeah.
know, experiences. And those were kind of the things I listened to all the time. But I'd never considered theater until I actually I got caught smoking in the boys' room in high school with one of my friends handing me a cigarette for like I was in the bathroom in between classes and I was like, oh, yeah, sure. And I put it up to my lips and the vice principal walks in and I'm just like immediately, I will get caught no matter what it is. I have no game as far as like criminal activity because I will constantly get caught. So yeah, I got suspended for 2 weeks because of that. And my mother was not happy. And she knew that I like music. She knew that I liked listening to these albums. She knew that I could possibly perform in something. So she took me to an audition for a kids show in Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland, for a dinner theater, and I got cast in it. And all of a sudden I sort of found the people that I wanted to hang out for the rest of my life with, were
Mm.
people in the theater. They're all a common goal people. They're all, we all have a mission to put on a show. They're energetic beyond belief. I was pretty subdued when I was that age. I didn't talk to many people. I wasn't like, Mr. Social guy, but it brought it out of me. It became something better and more purposeful, and that hit pretty quickly. And then I, got a few laughs on stage, and I was in. Well, I was
Hooked.
full. So I guess at the age of about 15.
Yeah, you've done a lot of Broadway work and a lot of TV film work. Is there a difference to you? Do you prefer one over the other? Is it completely different? Which one would you prefer doing?
Yeah, I guess it's different. Obviously, I guess the actors get asked this question all the time, and I guess it's whatever's up to the individual. People like doing TV because it's just different medium. You can dig in a little differently. Theater's performative, obviously, but it's just as rewarding for your heart as talk about Groundhog Day affecting me in a way where I'm crying every night. Um, but in a television film setting, I especially like being part of doing something now, as I'm writing something now with my friend, and we've filmed a short version of it, and now we're doing another piece. I just like being able to be a part of something where the mechanics are this meets this and this works, and if you put all the pieces together in the right way, it will be this. You can create anything out of a film, and there are subtleties that are there that are beautiful to play, especially if the camera is very close to you. You sort
Yeah.
of you you find something in yourself that you hadn't seen. You would, especially if you watch it, you're like, oh, that was really good. If I just dig in and even just a little bit, the camera picks up every part of that. If you're immersed in some sort of reality of this character, then it really shows that. And so I just enjoy that part of it. The scheduling is different because
Yeah.
on stage, 2.5 hours of go go go.
Yeah.
If you're shooting something like Law and Order SVU, it is 5 hours of sitting around and waiting for your lines to come up, and then a half hour shooting, and then you're done, and then you sit around for another 5 hours. So it's like trying to just find something to do.
Right,
Like,
right.
and I'm not. I have been so used to like doing theater where it's like, okay, I've got this hour and this hour where I have to be on, and then I get to go home. Uh,
Yeah. You
so
you've
that's the
originated
biggest difference, but both rewarding.
you've originated cool roles and been in awesome musicals. What struck me was what was it a special experience recently to do Into the Woods? I'm pretty sure that you were on within a year of Sondheim's passing. What was
Yeah,
that experience? Did it feel extra special? Did it feel, you know what I mean? Was it
yeah. I mean,
like that would be a cool experience?
The Woods was one of the shows that I listened to when I was my teens or something, or early years of high school or junior. I saw the show, the original cast. My parents had taken me to New York. I'm from Baltimore, so we drove 4 hours away and saw the original. No, it was with a field trip of some kind. Anyway, we'd seen the original cast, and I'd fallen in love with it. I listened to the album the whole time, and just discovered so much about Stephen Sondheim. And it was one of those shows that I was like, maybe I'll do it someday. And it's like, man, no, I'm not ready, or don't gotta cast this person. So it was a bucket list thing to get offered to come in for a certain amount of time for Cinderella's prince and then Rapunzel's prince. Truly, like, I was like, this is the part of me that I've always wanted to do. This is coming from stuff as a kid, and now it's here in full fruition. And it had been within the year that Sondheim had passed, and I did feel his presence. You can't help but feel his presence. You can't help but feel like, this one's for you, Stephen. This one's for you. Like, I
Yeah.
want to every night you go out there, you just want to. Yeah, it's like I don't know, a holy place because he truly had a passion for what he did, and he truly like just was a creative artist that, unlike you'd ever seen, and so few people come along like that are, have that point of view, but also know how to tell great character story, but also know so much about music and uh do and find things that are thematically amazing, like,
Yeah.
twist
Yeah.
fairy tale essentially. And how they're done is and kudos to James Lapine as well. It was beautiful to be able to do that on a personal level for myself, but also, like, in honor of Stephen Sondheim. I mean,
Yeah.
few people
It,
like that.
are there roles like that out there that you'll take at a drop of a hat and you kind of already know it? You know what I mean? Like you kind of already knew both those roles. You were ready.
I mean, that was it. That was like, oh yeah. It's so scary because it lives in your head as this like beautiful moment in your youth. Like, I don't think I could be as good as the original. There's no way I'm not worthy. And then you
Yeah.
get to do that, and it was a beautiful experience. I don't know. From now on, now I'm just more into the discovery of something I've never done before, or,
Mm,
it's with teeth coming up. It's tapping into some subject matter and some horror and tone of comedy that I is going to be wild, and I'm playing three different parts, and having to switch in and out of, I don't know, different types of characters, but also,
mm.
I don't know, carry so much of this story in a way. It's something I've never done, and certainly in a horror comedy musical.
Yeah.
So it's for me a little, in a great way, just uncharted territory and a little bit scary, but I'm going to do my best and just play, and play on that stage. So
Very fun.
that's coming up, and there's other things that are coming up that are just going to be challenges for me in a way that I accept them. And
Yeah.
that's my favorite thing, is to challenge myself and see how far I can stretch myself, because it's what's been happening thus far. And there's no point in doing it if you're just going to repeat the same thing over and over again.
Sure.
Even though I
Sure.
played a guy who repeated the same day over and over. A show that repeated itself. Yeah,
Uh,
that's ironic.
um, so I could ask you Broadway questions all day, but we do need to transition because the biggest reason I started this podcast was trying to figure out my own spiritual journey,
Mhm.
my faith and what it means to me and what I believe and don't believe. And I really just got interested um, in hearing how other people have lived. And so, kind of open ended wherever you want to start. Faith, religion, God, no God. What did you grow up with? What has life looked like to you on a spiritual morality level?
As I mentioned, my mother played organ for our church, so church was part of my growing up. Episcopalian. I grew up in the house connected to the church. I think she got a good deal on it because she was also, like, or part of the organization, and it was a
Yeah.
beautiful house in Baltimore, in Lutherville, Baltimore. And I became an altar boy at a certain point. So I was lighting the candles and doing the rituals and going to church. So I was involved in the rituals of it and the community of it. Um, and I immediately knew at a young age that this that the teachings of the Bible, or the sermons, were all giving moral foundation for things. I could understand don't steal,
Mm.
don't covet, uh, don't hurt, don't hurt people.
Sure,
It
yeah.
just lessons in morality, which I think is really important. And however you communicate them, whether it's through religion or if it's just you're growing up with parents who are good and know how to express that to you. Um, it's things that are, inherent in our DNA. I mean, empathy and altruism and things like that. But I think, be able to reflect that in some way through some teaching, uh, I thought was beneficial. I didn't become like thoroughly heavily religious. As I grew up, I sort of like went every now and again during high school and see my parents and maybe the holidays, and then it becoming like not really a thing that I needed to go to church and didn't really find the interest. I found interest in other things.
Mm.
Uh, it's it's still always nice to walk into a church and know the solace and the reverency. London was beautiful. They have some beautiful churches in London, and
Yeah.
you walk. And if it's a quiet day on a Wednesday and nobody's there, it's you can have a time to reflect, I think. Um, but what happened after that was finding people in theater. Theater became my church, essentially. There was a
Yeah.
reverency. We're all there for a common goal. We're all there to pay homage to a higher, I don't know, a way of expressing oneself, be able to tell
Hmm.
stories that can evoke feelings the same that I had when I was watching shows. We all have a duty to that, and we all have a duty to getting along and not putting ourselves above other people. And somebody stands in the lead, somebody's at the pulpit, some directors are there. It all made sense to me in that it became my church. Um, so in any form, and at this point, and I suppose I had the most I don't want to say religious experience through Groundhog Day, but it was definitely a reflective experience. And then during COVID, when I was kind of like, okay, theater's done. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm kind of bitter about it. I don't want to try. I had some friends who like lost their parents, and we all decided to get together with those friends who were in the theater and start writing, start bringing each other together to I don't know, write a mobbed up version of a Christmas Carol. That's what we were writing. We just I thought that was a great idea, and I was like, I'm in. So my friends who were going through a bunch of stuff, and I had everybody who's just like sitting on their sitting around waiting for something to do, wanted to join in and have Zoom readings together. I was like, yeah, and as soon as we started doing that, I was like, yep, this is my church. This is my community of
Mm.
people. These are the people that I love to gather together. For some reason, we all want to laugh and we all want to be together. And because it was revolved around Christmas, the story was revolved around Christmas. It felt like, oh, this is how I celebrate. This is how I celebrate Christmas. This is how I celebrate a community of people understanding how important it is to, I don't know, honor something that is as beautiful as theater. Um,
Yeah.
so it was religion has always been for me and will always reflect for me community, purpose, and a gathering to express uh, the good and the morals and maybe that's through any ritual you choose, but at least we're all together and we're family and
Yeah.
making something we're making something as a community, which is as humans we just can't live without. We have to do it. We can't sit in a corner and brew about how we don't believe in something. We need to actually gather and be together. So yeah, I think if church taught me that, then so be it. But so did theater, and that's as
Yeah.
religious as I am. So.
Yeah, no, I mean you're describing I think you're describing church in a very gracious way and church at its best of what it should be.
Mhm.
Is that the community that you grew up in, or is that opposite of what you grew up in, and you reflect on it and go, I wish it was that.
Yeah, it was never I was never put upon with religion. It's always like, I don't know, this is a safe place. It maybe
Mm.
wasn't as fun as going and riding my bike each day, but it was like, you're in a safe place. You're here for a couple hours. You connect with people. I see my parents connecting with people. That's fine. But I was never in a heavy Bible thumping religious household.
Yeah.
Um, my stepfather's, he's Christian, and he holds himself to a standard, but he doesn't expect everybody else to hold themselves to a standard. He just
Mm.
spreads his how he feels about things.
Yeah.
Interesting enough, I was just in Baltimore, and seeing my parents, and Elise was with me, and we sat next to this guy who is a scientist. He works for the Hubble telescope.
Yeah.
He was from Australia. It was very random. There was all these like connections. But he studies black holes, and he's very religious, and actually stands on. That's kind of how he um, views what he does for a living, is like faith through science. So he does some extremely scientific work uh, for the world, discovering black holes, how they work. But he's also like, there's so many unanswered questions. There's so many. For him, it's like that's how he views religion. There may be thousands of unanswered questions, but I have faith. I have faith in this. And he saw black holes that way. He's like, I don't know everything yet, but I have faith that there's more knowledge inside there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so he parallels his religion and his science in a way that was really interesting. And he wasn't trying to, like, you guys need to be religious. He's like, what? He asked me, like, what is your religion? And I was like, well, I grew up Episcopalian, but I more am in the church of the theater, essentially. So it was a really interesting conversation between him, somebody who's so dedicated to science, but also has a religious background and viewpoint. Um, it comes from everywhere, but it's like everything can be associated to something, you know, religious or atheist or science. There's so many unanswered questions. So it's not like he was slipping religion in to be there. He's just like,
Right.
I believe that if we have faith in science, then what's wrong with me having faith in God?
Yeah.
And
No,
it's a
absolutely.
really cool question, a cool way he was presenting things.
Yeah, I think I told you this when we met, but I live and work at a church that's about 5 minutes from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena that
Oh
sends
yeah.
a bunch of state stuff to space for NASA. And so we have a ton of people who work there that go to our church, and I've gotten to tour the campus there numerous times, and with people that when you walk into the campus, there's a huge board that shows everything that they have that's currently in space.
Mhm.
And I'll say, how many of those did you put up there? And they'll look and they'll go, I built cameras that are on 7 of those satellites. Mind blowing.
Yeah.
And they have faith. And I think a lot of it just goes back to, I know now that I know nothing, that the
Yeah.
more they venture, the more they learn about space, the more they realize that we just don't know. It's
Yeah.
impossible to know why we're here. It's impossible to know if anyone else is here, or how far reaching, or why, or all those things. And so at the end of the day, you're putting your faith in something, and their heart tells them that there's a creator. And that's why they worship. And I find myself, as someone who studies the Bible and digs in deeply there, that the more I know about the Bible, the less I feel I am certain of.
Yeah, and
Um,
interesting.
from
I
when I
also
was
think
in high
the
school and
journey of
junior high, when it was like black and white, this is this. Even as you study the Bible and get more knowledge, it becomes more gray and murky. And you are just, at the end of the day, putting your faith in something.
yeah, I think that happens with everybody in as they grow older with with things and a little deeper meaning, and things affect their lives in a way, the structure becomes less about the structure. It becomes more about the ethereal idea, and it becomes something bigger than yourself. Astronauts who go into space and look down on the earth, see how fragile it is and how small it is, and why the hell are we all anybody at war? Why would anybody be in conflict when we have this little precious ball that we're living on? And how um, grateful we should be to be there. Um, if we all had that perspective, it might be a better world. But I just think as we all see certain things happen to us in our lives, and whatever conflict we come across or whatever questions we have about the structure, it enriches us, but it also can have the effect of making us feel less connected to it and less confident in the choices that we're making. As an actor, trust me, I feel this all the time. There's times when I'm just like, I got this, man. I'm so in love with like who I am. And as an actor, I know all my tricks. I know things that I can connect to. I know how to look inside of a story, how to look through a character. But like, sometimes, especially with Teeth, I was like looking at these characters, like, I don't get it. I'm looking for a way in, and I'm not sure where I can find it. And you could have that moment of feeling you don't have the confidence to push through it. Um, the only thing that I guess makes the difference is like giving yourself the time in order to understand it, or be afraid, and that's okay as well. Or not having, you don't have all the answers, and that's okay as well. And making uh, careful decisions based on processing what's happening in front of you.
Yeah.
And things become a little bit more clear as to what really matters. Do all these words matter, or is it the fact that I have all these people together, and we are searching for a common goal of knowing that something is bigger than us. Um, I think those things hit pretty great and pretty hard, but also, I don't know, give you a sense of like, isn't it amazing that we're all here? Isn't
Yeah.
it is ridiculous? How amazing are we to actually be in existence? So yeah, it's interesting. The more you discover about life, the less it can make sense sometimes. But that's okay. Like
Yeah.
let's go for it and discover something new.
I love that. I love that so much. And I think that is why I have found friendship with Tim Minchin, even though like from the outside we should be diametrically opposed in in
Yeah,
everything that we believe. We're not. Like I think we're more on either side of the center than we
yeah,
are on extreme opposites. And I love that idea. When I started to look outside of my faith community for more people who were sharing that, who were just trying to do good and trying to find truth and trying to find goodness in the world, I was opened up to so many more beautiful people in relationships. And I love that perspective so much.
yeah. I agree with you. I think you and I are a lot alike in that way. Like Tim Minchin comes in full strong with an opinion, and whether he wants to like convince you of it, or he just basically has like an extreme way of presenting himself that is fascinating. I feel like his
Yeah.
brain works four different parts at the same time. What you watch his show, and you're like, how can he sit here and explain about how swing is
Freaking A, that was the most
is
amazing 10
yeah,
minutes I've
like
seen in a
he's
concert in a
describing the
long time.
nuances of what swing and quarter time and three-quarter time, and how you can push the note and pull it back while he's doing a bass line with his left hand, and but also running off on the tangent of like what it means to push something and pull something while he's carrying this exact thematic, beautiful bass line of swing on his left hand. He's explaining something, and you're like, oh, a person like that really kind of their brain
Yeah.
works.
He's a different guy.
And so it makes him really like. amazing at debate and amazing at carrying a point, but also, like amazing at he's got four other thoughts in his brain while he's having a conversation with you.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's one of those things where it's fascinating, but it's also like a little abrasive.
Yeah.
Even for me. So I never try to sit there and debate him. I'm always just like, okay, I thought I have a way that I respond to things, and this is how I like my life to go. And
Yeah.
there's wrong with that.
Yeah.
But
Watching
he,
his show, I feel like for everything he says, there's 10 things he stopped himself from saying. Like that's
yeah,
how fast his brain is working. Like, don't say that, don't say that. And then he says something and he stopped himself from saying 10 other things.
yeah, it's fascinating. I also think it's fascinating. What is he sings that song about I don't know why I like Christmas when
White
he's singing
wine in
about
the
his
sun.
child.
Yeah.
He's thinking about his child and I just thought like it's fascinating. It's a real way of like, well, there's something reflective and unanswerable for you
Hmm.
is your child sitting there magically, amazingly, with all the thoughts in their head and the more thoughts that will come and your purpose in life is sort of, set up to show this child the way through life. And I think that means a lot to him, having his family
Yeah.
and his children, and he takes pride in them. And so there are some things that just like, hit you in life that you can't, it's no longer a debate, it's just do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that comes, I don't know. There's very few people in this world that cannot do for their children.
Right.
Um, there are some, and usually they're psychopaths, but at least we know Tim's
um,
not a psychopath.
that's true. Well,
He's super smart. But those type of things that like, as an actor, it's like that's what I see. I see somebody who can empathize and sympathize and also know that something's bigger than him in
yeah.
that way. As much as he could try to like break it down, but also be helpful in encouraging somebody else that he truly loves, like his children, to grow and find their own path and help guide them along the way. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah. I want to end. We've talked a lot about what's coming up for you, but so you can repeat something if this is the answer or go in a different direction. But I want to end with what are you hopeful about? What's coming up that you're hopeful, excited, anything like that? Ending on a positive. It could be something we already talked about, but what are you hopeful about? What do you wake up
Uh,
excited about?
I I wake up excited about a lot of things. Just excited to be as I'm getting older. I'm just excited to wake up breathing.
My knee feels okay
So
today.
excited about. I'm so excited. I'm excited about the people in my life. I I recently got out of a very long-term relationship that uh, it maybe reflect a lot on myself because well, what wasn't I offering and things that made it just not be anymore. Um, and I guess one of those answers was family for me, and I hadn't spoken to my father in a very very long time.
Mm,
It's got to be like 15 years. hadn't
wow.
hadn't gone to my hometown in equally that amount of time. What I get excited about now is like saving it. I don't know, saving those relationships or reestablishing those relationships.
Mhm.
And I recently went down to see my dad. He's not doing very well, but so I'd seen him twice in the past couple months, and I hadn't seen him in a very very long time before that. For so many reasons, but we had a talk and he was hard at talking, but you can see him processing everything. He's excited to see me. He was excited to hear anything that I had to share with him, and he just recently gave me his guitar that he had since 1960, is this acoustic
Mm,
guitar, because I think he could feel himself not long for the earth anymore. And it was like powerful. I
mm,
didn't want to, I wasn't really upset. I was just like, here's somebody that I can reconnect with before he's gone. And thank God I can do that. And that was really exciting. And so I want to get down there couple of times. I'll have my Mondays free for when I'm doing the run of teeth, just a
Yeah,
couple hours away. Just want to be there. I just want to connect with that part of my life because it helps him, but it especially helps me heal in a lot of ways where I felt like I was lacking, and it's beautiful. That's a very exciting thing for me.
that is a beautiful thing to be hopeful about. I love that. Love it. How can people follow what you're doing? People already know who you are, but socials, teeth, how can people follow you over the next couple months and what you got going on?
I guess Andy underscore Karl Kit with a K. That's the Instagram and the Twitters and I think the Facebooks. Did I do Facebook? That I recently signed up for Facebook, so I'm still pretty bad at social media stuff. I don't even know how it works.
Is
The
that
whole
part of
marketing.
reconnecting with your family because they're so old that they're still on Facebook?
No, no, that's me getting on Facebook because I'm so far behind, and it's hard for me to give a crap about social media when
That's
it
funny.
feels
I hate
self-serving.
it so much. I
Anyway,
hate it. We've just had this
it's a weird
beautiful
thing that I have
we've
to
just
do
had
it.
this beautiful conversation, and the only way people will listen to this conversation is if I break it up into little 30-second segments and post it
Yeah.
on social media that interest people to go click the link to. I hate it so much, but here we
Oh,
are.
yeah, you'll find out most of the stuff with Andy underscore Karl. And uh my website's so old too. There's who has a website either. It's like but yeah, it's mostly you just Google search and you'll
Yeah,
see something I'm doing.
but go
Uh
see Teeth,
it,
and I hope that Groundhog Day has another run somewhere soon. That's
maybe.
my
Yeah,
hope.
I'm sure it will at some point, whether I'll be doing it up to the stars. But yeah, come see Teeth. We'll be at the New World Stages in off Broadway at the New World Stages theaters, and starting we open on Halloween, which is perfect.
Very fun, very fun. Andy, thank you so much for doing this, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Eric. It's really great to talk to you.